was a mother of these kids, these two kids at Robb Elementary School. And I believe it was graduation day. And we're going to go ahead and listen to her audio. And in a minute. But basically, I don't know if you guys know the whole story, but the Uvalde police responded to a school shooting and basically just cordoned off the area and let this gunman just kill all the kids, or kill a lot of the kids. And what ended up happening is a Border Patrol agent who had kids there had to go over there to raise holy hell and basically tell those local cops, is Chille would call them jackboot thug, you know what's, if they didn't go in and start rescuing the kids. So it took a Border Patrol agent who was apparently at a barber shop down the street to finally get the Uvalde cops to do something about this. But this woman, who was an onion picker, who had two kids there, really brave woman. I mean, I just really am impressed with her. And Dick Heller is friends with her, and he's the one who told me about her case. And I want to share with you. I'm getting it done, brother. I'm getting it done, Ralph. And I want to share with you what happened here, because it's just tragic. So this woman had the cojones to drive about 100 miles per hour from where she was out picking onions to go back to the school and try to figure out what the heck was going on with their kids. And when she gets there, the cops are pepper spraying other parents who are yelling at the cops for not doing anything to try to rescue their kids. And so I figured this would be a great teaching opportunity, and also sort of help you understand how I ended up really meeting Chille and how this all went down. So one of the, Dick Heller and I, when we first met with him, one of our goals was to get Chille to come down to Uvalde with us to help us do a fundraiser for her, because her children were taken away from her by Child Protective Services, and she's living in a garage based on what Dick was saying. And then, of course, a couple days later, Chille got locked up. But that was one of our goals. Now, what I want to do, guys, is I want to play this audio for you, because it's really tragic what happened to her. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then I want you to give me a bunch of ones if you can hear it, because I'm going to be playing it off of an audio on a screenshot kind of thing. So here it goes. 1, 2, 3.
It was a really good day because all the children were graduating that day. So both my sons were graduating. So that summer I was picking onion and school was almost about to end. So I went to the school. We had the graduations. As soon as I got back to the field, to my field job, I saw some girls like on their phones. Some were crying, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, they said there's a shooting at the school. Well, in that moment, my mom's calling me, and she had to pay a library book. She was in the building still. So in that moment, she calls me like, there's something serious going on here at the school. Like, you need to get here now. I get in my car. I start crying because I'm like, I'm freaking out. I start crying like about 100 miles per hour. And I'm like coming into town, and I'm just like, please, I hope this is not real. And I park like where we drop off our kids. So there was snipers like laying, and there was cops. So when I just park, I get off, and they're like, ma'am, do you understand that there's an active shooter on the campus? And I'm like, yeah, I've already been informed. You need to like get out of my way. And he's like, we're going to tow your car. I'm like, tow the car, like do whatever you want with the car. Like, I don't know why you're standing outside the fence talking to me, wasting your time talking to me. You need to be on the other side of the fence, and they're doing something. If you're not going to do it, then I'm going to go ahead and do it. The door where we drop them off is like a fence door. It's the only door you can access.
So just really quick. So you hear she's showing up at the school, and the cops aren't doing anything. And she's telling them, hey, if you guys don't do anything, I'm going to do something. So this is another one of those examples where officers will charge you with resisting, obstructing, delaying an officer in the performance of their duties. And I just want you to see how outrageous this is, because I've been trying to share with you from day one, since I've been doing these shows, is that police have no duty to protect you. Their job is to protect the government and enforce the policy. Thus the word police. Policy, policy. They're policy enforcers. And their policy is to set up a barricade, not rescue your kids. Their job is to make it home safe. Let's go ahead and keep listening to what these guys did. It's just tragic what happened to her.
When I threw my body over, thank God my oldest son, his room was right next to the office where none of the shooting was at. I just remember I'm banging on the teacher's door, and she just like, Gomez, how'd you get in? And I'm like...
And by the way, the part that's missing from this, and I don't know why, is that she had been handcuffed, and she either escaped or got released from the handcuffs before this moment that she's talking about it. It seems like that part's missing, but let's just go ahead and keep listening to what she has to say.
Just start yelling for my son, Vladimir, where are you? Vladimir, come on, let's go. And he starts getting his backpack. So I get him in my mom's car. She drives off. And then I tell her I'm going back for Aurelius. So just go ahead and drive back around. Well, by the time I'm running to the other side of the campus, a lot of officers are on me already. And they're like, ma'am, can you just wait, ma'am? Can we talk to you? Can you calm down? Ma'am, come here. Can you? And I'm like, no, like just start evacuating my son's room or I'm like going to start like just hitting whoever if you don't get out of my way. They said, just start evacuating that door so we can get her off of the campus and get her like out of our hair. Well, when I'm running off with my son, they're trying to get all of us to leave the kids and we're just scattering. So when I'm running with my son, I feel another.
Did you guys hear that? The police are trying to get the parents to leave the kids. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, just imagine that. This is why we have a Second Amendment. That's why I keep harping on to all you people. Police have no duty to protect you. They never have. Municipal police have no duty to protect you. It's a general proposition. Sometimes they do when they assume a duty. It's so rare, it's almost non-existent. Let's go ahead and keep listening.
And in that video where I'm running out, that's not my son. The one on the right side, he's actually my brother-in-law, but he's my son's age. And so I feel my hand, and I'm like, Ricky, and he's like, I'm going with you. I feel safe with you. I'm going with you. My niece was in the building where the shooting was happening, so we had to go to the Civic Center to collect the kids that were in the actual building. So when we were waiting, it was so scary because I think I felt a lot of guilt because I had forgot my niece. And some parents start noticing that their kids aren't like coming off the buses. So it's like, well, where's my kid? Where's my kid? They're like, well, you have to call the hospital. You have to call San Antonio. Parents just start crying because they're like, we're calling the hospitals. Our kid's not there. Like, you know, so everybody just starts crying. And so immediately I go to HEB and I start getting candles because I was like, maybe we just need to start praying, like, because something's not right. All we remember is we start.
Yeah, something I learned a long time ago that my dad told me is there's no such thing as atheists and fighting holes. And I think they called them foxholes when he was in, but same difference. And you can see that this woman is praying and doing everything she can to try to provide spiritual energy for these other parents. And just give me a bunch of comments if you have anything to say about that, because I think it's amazing how tragedy brings us closer to our Creator. Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and keep playing this.
Start seeing freezer trucks start going into the front of the campus the next like 3-4 days after. Freezer trucks start loading all kinds of bags, which were the bodies.
She's a badass.
I remember there was times where I would get so emotional and I would just start crying and feel guilty. Like, should I have not saved my kids? Like, I felt bad sitting at the funerals. Like, it should have been my kids should be in those boxes too, you know, but thank God they're not. But, you know, sometimes it made me think like that, second guess my decision of what I did that day. But then I would always think, no, I would not change what I did because my sons wouldn't be alive.
She rescued her kids.
Well, thank God they weren't in that room, but still, you never know.
You never know. She rescued them. She's a hero.
We all take counseling. The counseling service that were provided to all the families that were involved in the tragedy. So I have one son that attends counseling. I have another son that attends teaching skills to heal. And I have Momi, I take counseling as well. I have one son that he has his days, you know, maybe something will pop up on Facebook or one of the children's birthdays. So still affects them in ways. It just depends on what they're seeing or what they're doing, or if they see somebody of the parents from the children that were lost.
She is just such a
Voice
badass.
of Angelique Gomez. Her children survived the shooting in Uvalde, but she was arrested and jailed for ignoring police commands not to enter the school building. That interview was conducted by Texas State student Madison Jones as part of a project led by Professor Dino Kieki. We'll be sharing more of these stories over the next few weeks.
All right, so you guys get the idea, and I've talked about, you know, the duties of police and all this stuff, but Gomez, I mean, this woman was she is a hero, and my understanding, guys, and by the way, we're going to call it Team MPE for Michael Paul Ehline. I'm asking that Team MPE help me track her down. I have not had any luck locating her. The last time I heard about what was going on with her is that Child Protective Services had taken her kids and that she was living in someone's garage. And that's about the same time Chille got locked up. And so me and Dick and Chille were going to go down there and raise hell with Child Protective Services and the police to try to help her get her kids back and try to do a fundraiser. And so thanks. Team MPE for the win. I love it. Let's OTVO. Yeah. But, and Dick's getting old. I don't know how long he's going to be around, but he's an icon and he is a Second Amendment guy. And this story presents the classic argument for why we have a Second Amendment and why it's so important. Because police do not have a duty to protect individuals as a general rule. And it's up to us to look after ourselves and to look after our neighbors and stuff. I mean, if you're a good citizen, you're going to keep an eye on your neighbors and you're going to be a good person. And I'll tell you right now, if I was a law enforcement officer, I would be totally ashamed of myself for what these people allowed to happen to those children. And the backdrop is that a border patrol officer who was apparently getting his hair cut down the street ended up, I guess, grabbing a shotgun from his bartender, because it is Texas after all. You gotta love Texans. Give me a bunch of ones for Texans, guys. I mean, Texans are awesome. I don't know what happened to these cops. They must have got Tex-masculated. Must have got de-Tex-maxulated when they became cops. But anyways, this border patrol agent, who's a federal officer, went and raised holy hell after this woman apparently had already rescued her children, and basically convinced or forced by hook or by crook to get those Uvalde cops to follow him in. And of course, what does he do? He goes directly to the classroom where his kids are. So think about that. Public servants from the administrative state, remember that, guys. They're going to put their kids first. And they got the badge, they got the power. And this is what really bothers me. And this is why I invite all of you to stand with me in forming our own alternative systems where we do business with people who we like and trust. We homeschool our kids and we talk about homesteading and getting out of this system of oppression that we're in, where we can't even defend our families. Because you can see, based upon ancient and historic law, municipal police are not going to help you. Now, somebody made a comment in the sidebar earlier that it is the sheriff's job to protect you, and that is true. The ancient word sheriff, shire of the reef, remember, we had protections built in, starting with like the Magna Carta. There was the confirmatio, confirmatum. There were many other. Remember, Charles the First was beheaded, and that was the parliamentarians. And eventually, we got another. I think Charles II in there. They got. The bottom line is all these documents were put in place to protect the rights of the people. And part of the tradition was that the shire of the reef would protect the people from the king, and he would be in the county. But now municipal police were a creation that came along later with the advent of municipal corporations, and their duty is to protect the corporation. Their duty is to protect the policy. That's their job. So I'll get into a little bit of this really quick. If I see if I can open this up for you guys. So generally, I've done another video on this, so I don't want to get too into it. But as a general rule, the police don't have a duty to protect individuals. That's the Castle Rock and DeShaney cases. Most police officers and the public think that police are supposed to protect people, but they don't have any duty to. And we saw that. Well, they generally don't. And we saw that with the Rodney King case. And with Rodney King, that was the LA riots. The only ones who didn't face utmost and horrific destruction were the Korean shopkeepers. And they were armed with AR-15s and basically weapons that were later outlawed in California under the Roberti Roos assault weapons ban. And it basically said that if your receiver is stamped with Colt or Smith & Wesson, the receiver, your lower, right, is stamped with that. That makes it a registered assault weapon. You have to register it as an assault weapon. And if you don't, it's a felony. And then any new configurations have to have a fixed mag where you got to drop it with like a bullet button. You can only have 10 rounds. It basically renders the weapon ineffective. I mean, what you want is you want to have your 30-round mag in your AR. You want to be able to drop mags quickly. You don't want to run out of ammo and not be able to reload. It's basically almost like the government saying, F you. If we try to do anything to infringe on you, at least we know you only have 10 rounds. But what about you if someone illegally assaults you or attacks you, especially if you're not the best shot? 10 rounds isn't going to be enough. That's why police have standard capacity magazines, which politicians call large capacity magazines, but they're really just standard capacity magazines because it's what the manufacturer recommends for your firearm. And by the way, I do teach a CQB course. I help female rape victims, and I'm very, very much a proponent of Second Amendment rights. I know what I'm talking about. I'm an expert at this. I'm not just somebody talking out of my rear end. Now, a lot of people don't know that the revolution was basically partly fought over gun control. We know that the king wanted to fund his wars like they want to fund the wars now with our taxes, and the colonists didn't like it. They didn't have a proper representation. And ultimately, the king tried to seize the powder houses, kind of like, telling you how many rounds you can have, powder houses meaning gunpowder, because he didn't want the colonists to be able to rebel against his troops that he was unlawfully housing and quartering. And that's even mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. So we know that that's super important that you have that. So let's just go back to this amazing woman, because that's what this conversation is really about. So Angeli Rose Gomez was handcuffed outside the Robb Elementary School, but ultimately she was able to jump over a fence and rescue her kids. And there was another Uvalde man who was also handcuffed, apparently. Well, no, she was handcuffed, but there were several other people who spoke about her and basically said she's a hero. Let me see if I can open this thing up a little bit more. And my goal here today, guys, is to let you know that we don't know where she is. I've tried to track her down. I can't find her, and she's in Texas. I don't know if she has a lawyer. I'm not trying to be her attorney, so don't think I'm trying to solicit anything. What I want to do is help her raise funds so she can at least hire a decent lawyer who knows more about the local school laws than me, because apparently there's something going on with Child Protective Services and what she did by rescuing her kids. And then obviously I'd be willing to help her pro bono, but I'm not offering or soliciting my services in any way, shape, or form. But if she did need me, I would do it pro bono, because I'm really, really pissed about what happened. I always think, and I want everybody to think like this: if you had a family or something, and then you passed away, and that was your wife, how would you feel right now? Wouldn't you want somebody like me to try to help her? Because I'm telling you right now, there's nobody trying to help her that I could find. Somebody's got to do it. She's probably one of the only ones who are worthy. One of the few people who are worthy. And give me a bunch of ones if you think that. If you think that she's one of the few people who are worthy of my help. And so this is my bone of contention with a lot of people who don't like Chille DeCastro. Is I know that a lot of people have all these terrible, horrific things to say about him, but at the end of the day, he was willing to spend his own money to come down to Uvalde with me. And with him, I could have raised holy hell. I mean, we could have, everybody would have been down there. We could have got local press involved, because the guy is a game changer. So yeah, go Team DLZ, right? And so like all this other stuff is like a sideshow for me. You guys talking about what a terrible guy is. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And in this case, for what I do as a civil rights lawyer, I need people like Chille, because there's nobody else out there that has the balls to do what he's doing. and he may make a lot of mistakes, but that's just the way it goes. I'm hoping that you guys see that it takes somebody who's really, really brave to put yourself in harm's way because you want to effectuate change. In this particular case, this woman was actually handcuffed, and there were other parents out there getting pepper sprayed by the Uvalde police. Now, what ended up happening is these guys allegedly started following her around, kind of putting her under surveillance and harassing her, trying to silence her to prevent her from talking to the press. Sound familiar, guys? Sound exactly like what our federal agencies did during the last election when they tried to silence anyone who talked about the Hunter Biden laptop? It's no different. If you don't support the political power structure, they will try and find ways to silence you. And now, you know, with the advent of social media, that is your social credit score. If you don't have clout online and business, it's going to kill you. And so now these social media companies who are all in bed for one political party or another have the power to completely shut you down. And we see that when the government gets involved in that mix, where they're, you know, have revolving door employees, you know, who were judges or FBI agents or CIA agents, and they're all going back and forth and working for these social media companies. That's what's going on, guys. So that's what happened here. You know, they have so much power to silence anyone. I mean, have you guys heard about this story since this happened? I've been writing about this and blogging about this for years, and no one even seems to care. Like, give me a bunch of ones if you think that this should be like front page news. That's what I don't understand. Like, who decides the news cycle in this country? This is one of the most important things ever in the history of this country. This is a story of a woman who rescued her children and got targeted by police, had her kids taken away from her, and was forced to live and now is apparently, allegedly, being forced to live in a garage. And I don't even know the full story because you can't even find any stories about it. I mean, that talk about child protective services or any of that kind of stuff. And it just reeks of corruption. And I want to know if anybody, yeah, that's right, Child Protective Services has developed a strong reputation of corruption. And so have a lot of judges who have been busted. And we don't know how many of them are still engaged in wrongdoing, but who have been busted working with private prisons and foster parents and Child Protective Services, all working together with the private prisons, the foster care services, to strip kids away from their parents, especially low-income kids, Black kids, parents that don't have the ability to defend their families because they're broke or you know, they're not making a lot of money, they're low income, and the system knows that. And they're filling up prisons with these people, creating a bunch of permanent, like gladiators, sending them to gladiator academies when they're kids. We wonder why our society is so messed up. So let's take a look here. I'm gonna just take a look at some of your sidebar comments. So let me just disappear my face really quick. Hopefully you can still hear me. Now, that's right, Ralph. The CIA and the deep state does control the news. And we, you know, most people who are semi-educated understand that. You can't get real good information from a for-profit media system that has revolving door employees going back and forth from these government agencies and spy agencies. It's become a racket. The administrative state has become a racket. And we, the people, have become serfs, and they have become the new nobility. That's give me a bunch of ones if you think the administrative state has now become the fifth column, the self-appointed nobility, because that's what a lot of people think. Now, and Tom Shaw says lawyers own many CPS stores. I don't doubt it, Tom. And I don't doubt that lawyers are also corrupt. I think that the closer you get to absolute power, the closer you get to absolute corruption. That's why I think it's so important that people read the writings of Thomas Aquinas, Sir William Blackstone, and other great philosophers so they can learn more about making sure that they elect leaders and representatives who are more moral and just than them. That's the whole idea, is you want to put people in power who are better than you. Like I tell people all the time, I would never want to have a business partner who cheats on his wife, because if he can't keep his oath of loyalty to his woman, how could he keep his oath of loyalty to you as a business partner? Think about that. So that's the kind of stuff that you really need to think deeply about when you start talking about voting for people. Don't just vote for people based on their so-called ideology. Vote for them based upon their reputation among other people who you trust and like. I mean, if your babysitter likes and trusts someone and they refer you to someone, you're going to be more likely to do business with someone like that. That's my philosophy. Parallel systems. Now, that's right, Let's OTVO, especially if it's your wife. That's awesome. Well, let me throw that up there. Operation Paperclip. That's right, Let's OTVO. And Ralph. So we were talking about, you don't want a business partner who cheats on his wife because he's not trustworthy. And Let's OTVO said, especially if it's with your wife. Well, you never know. Maybe he might be sick of her. I'm kidding. Just kidding, ladies. So I'm just looking at your questions here. So Good Citizen, how does Michael Ehline doesn't add him to live BZ? Oh, I don't think that BZ wants to be live on this one. He's not BZ is more of a postal auditor guy. This is just a really, this is a story that's really near and dear to my heart, because I've been trying to find a way to locate this woman and do fundraisers for her, and kind of like, you know how they built all these statues to George Floyd? I think that we should build statues to her. I think that every single mom, I don't know that she's single, but it sounds like she is. I mean, I don't hear about her husband. I've never seen him in any pictures. She's living in a garage, apparently by herself. I mean, guys, this lady's a catch. Take a look at her. I mean, she is a catch. That we should be building statues to women like this. These are the kind of people like her. Let me just get her picture back up. I'm just really impressed. And, I'm not trying to get a date or anything, but, she's attractive and all that. But, man, could you imagine having a woman like this as your mom? I mean, seriously, guys. And I know a lot of us had crummy childhoods. A lot of us had great childhoods, but I think we can all agree that this woman right here is a national treasure. This woman literally had to fight with the Uvalde police to rescue her kids, hop a fence, go rescue her kids, and then get targeted by the police because she's talking trash on them for being such lowlifes and trying to arrest her and other parents for trying to rescue her kids. I mean, I ask me questions, guys. I want to put Team MPE together to where I want to put together an army of people to help me go out and figure out what's going on with her. Let's try to find a way to help her. Let's get together some local newspapers. Let's get a GoFundMe going. Let's find her and let's put together a legal team for her to help her get her kids back, assuming that she doesn't have her kids back yet. And from what I've heard, the fact that I haven't heard anything tells me a lot. So when you're being targeted by cops, it makes sense that you'd go underground and try to hide out. And so far, we have not had any luck getting a hold of her, and we're worried about her. I would, at the very minimum, like to do a welfare check to find out what's going on with her. So I'm accepting, anybody who wants to be a volunteer to help me track her down in a way that's not harassing. I would greatly appreciate that. And let me just look at the questions here. Yeah, and Brick's right. So Brick says highlighting the story is fine, but we need real solutions. Men cannot be trusted. Write policy and statute to reflect natural law. I agree with that, and I think that Brick is right on the money. But yeah, because this story is a symptom of the problem, and the problem is that we have, well, in my opinion, we have an administrative state that doesn't care about natural law. It's basically a Hobbesian system. Any kind of centralized control is a Hobbesian Leviathanic system. Natural law is about decentralization and localized control, and it's always been a battle between Hobbes and Locke, and that's just how it's always been. And what Brick is saying, and I agree, that we should write our laws to reflect natural law, but I think beyond that, we should be educating, going back to classical education. When I was growing up, everybody had a gun in their house and they slept with their doors unlocked, and nobody was getting shot. Everybody pledged allegiance to the flag. They were taught to love their country. It's things have changed. Now people are taught that, you know, part of the class is a victim, part of the class is an oppressor. So basically the whole system, and that's what a Leviathanic system seeks. It seeks division because it's easier to control through chaos. The power brokers can always control through chaos. Parallel systems with the natural law. So Brick is saying write laws and statutes that reflect natural law. But I posit, Brick, that we form parallel systems like Brett Pike is saying, and my friend Max Bonilla are both saying. We try to create parallel systems like Martin Luther King Jr. did. And I harp on you guys all the time about this, that we form parallel systems and only do business with each other. So if you have a printing company and you are like-minded, it makes sense that I would only buy my business cards from you. It makes sense that I would pay a premium for those business cards that I buy from you because I want to make sure you're successful. I just want people to hear me out and try and be part of Team MPE, because it's really, really hard for me to come and do these live casts. It hasn't helped my law practice at all, that's for sure. It's just been a lot of people who just hate Chille so much that they're trying to hurt me and my family, which totally doesn't make any sense to me. But I just want everybody to know that Chille and I were headed down to meet with this woman, or try to find her at least. And I think Dick actually was in contact with her when all this stuff went down. I wasn't expecting the judge, Zimmerman, to just immediately put him in torture cuffs and throw him in the dungeon. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys think that jail is a dungeon. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that county jail is a dungeon, because I do think it's a dungeon. So here, let me give you a bunch. Thanks, BZ Watchdog for the what do they call these things again? He's going postal. What do they call these? Power chats, super chats. By the way, guys, I created another level of membership for the purposes of trying to raise funds so that I can afford to, I guess, do some of these fire missions down in Texas. Because if we can't get Chille out, I'm still going to go down there. I just wish that I had some auditors and other people, because I'm not a technical guy. You saw the first couple of minutes of the show. I couldn't even get the audio right. But I am a good person, and I love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And although I may not agree with you on all things, I certainly am not going to try to cast you aside or cast aspersions or ad hominem attacks against you, because I think if we can agree on the things that matter, we should be able to form some kind of détente, because this is really, really important. This particular woman, in my opinion, is a national hero. Now, when we go back to what Jonesy is saying, I 1000% agree with Jonesy that we do need to pass laws and whatnot that are more in line with natural law. But in my opinion, we need to delete laws, Jonesy, Brick, because we have too many laws in the books. I mean, everything's a crime now. It's like how it was in the Soviet Union or in East Germany with the Stasi. What do they say? Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. And that's crazy. It's crazy that we have basically a collection agency, an administrative collection agency with a bunch of people who support another political party, basically like 90% or so support another political party that does not support natural law. And now they can, these people who work there, like Liz Lerner, can block you from having a nonprofit. They can target you for maybe a social media post that you made that supported the Second Amendment. I mean, it's risky business now, guys. That's your true social credit score. You could be targeted by these administrative agents just because they disagree with your politics, the same way that these trolls do with us when we try to talk about our love for the Constitution, the First Amendment. See how those trolls do it? The administrative state can easily do the same thing. That's what they did during the last election. They shut down like thousands of social media accounts if they discussed the Hunter Biden laptop story. Accounts that had millions of followers claiming that it was Russian disinformation. And now we know that that was a lie. That was all false. You know, and I'm sure it happens on the other side too with the Republicans. I'm not saying it's a Republican or Democrat thing. I'm sure that if Republicans are in power, they're going to do the same thing. The point is that we should not have these state actors and administrative agents basically acting as instrumentalities of social media and these private corporations going back and forth. It's not fair to us. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that we should delete laws and we should actually start thinking about shrinking and closing down a lot of these bloated administrative agencies. Give me a bunch of ones. $75 trillion plus in debt. All right, so I'm going to look over here into the sidebars. I want to see, especially see what Brick has to say, because I don't like ignoring my audience. That's the one thing I do try to be interactive. So let me take a look. And by the way, thanks for the super chat, BZ. I'm going to tell my wife. She hates it that I do these things because we can make way more money if I work on a file. But then again, I wouldn't be able to talk about things that I care about. And I have my kids, they watch me do these, and I'm teaching them how to do shorts. And I'm teaching my kids how to be entrepreneurs. And I want them to learn all this because I think it's really important for kids to understand the power of the press and social media. Give me a bunch of ones if you think it's important for parents how to teach their kids how to be entrepreneurs so they don't have to work for someone else. All right. Education is so important. That's what I say, Brick. That's why I say we should bring back classical education, cursive writing. I mean, our kids aren't even going to be able to go. Thank God I'm teaching my kids cursive, right? But most kids won't even be able to go back and read a love letter that their grandfather sent their grandmother or their grandmother sent their grandfather back in World War II, Vietnam, just a short years back. And there's not even going to be anybody to translate those because everybody's just going to be a lemming idiot and all that history is going to be lost. I think that that's by design. I don't think the power brokers want people to be smart. Remember, our education system is based upon the Prussian education system, and it was imported here by the Rockefellers, and it was done to create a nation of mindless workers, and because they were going to use their elite class to produce the judges and the leaders. But that's not what our founders wanted, and that's not natural law. And I'm not saying all of our founders were perfect, but at least most of them understood the concept of natural law, that our rights came from a creator, and that means they didn't come from man, and that means they can't be taken away by proxy or by mob rules. And that's why the detractors and the haters of the republic always try to say that we're a democracy. Under a democracy, the mob can take away your unalienable rights. The power of the republic was that our leaders would be bound by the chains of the Constitution. Give me a bunch of ones. I'm hoping Ralph and Brick are jumping up and down saying "oorahs" right now. But as I recall, I think one of them doesn't believe in the post-1790 Constitution. The problem is I have so many people in my audience. They all have a little bit different belief in what documents apply. I think one of my members, it thinks that it's the Articles of Confederation that is the active document, I believe, which I think that's actually okay. It's not a bad idea if we could do that. Let me just take a look at these questions here. So, yeah, words are important. Learn grammar. Yeah, I think so. Jails and prisons are cash cows, good citizen. That's right. And with assigned numbers for prisoners to pay for more prisoners for more money, they are prisoners of war. And George Carlin would agree. Yeah, we don't stop, Brick. That's right. OTVO and everybody. So OTVO, for those of you who don't know, was that Chille DeCastro is Chille DeCastro's term, and it means overturn Terry versus Ohio. And that's another thing that I like about Chille is he believes in deleting laws, and that's his trademark. By the way, I'll try and do a show from the DeleteLawz channel tomorrow night. Somebody send me a good topic. Want me to do a reaction video? Is there something you want me to cover? I mean, we've covered Judge Zimmerman a million times. We've covered Bork. I've covered his appellate brief and you know my 2 cents on it. You've seen what other lawyers have to say. Everybody's got their opinion. Is there anything that you'd like me to talk about on Chille's channel? Because I want to make sure we keep his channel alive. So I'd like it if people could reach out. Put it in the sidebar here. Also, if you can see anything. Yeah, Stacy, I think so too. Stacy says that schools teach and push agendas more than real education. Yeah, you even hear that. You know, like I represent parents who are pursuing claims for things like secret transgendering, where the school teachers that have the rainbow flags are behind their desk are saying that your kids are really trans but not telling you. And at school they're calling them they them, and they're counseling them that they're really have this strange new sexuality, and they have to keep it secret. because I guess Governor Newsom and the Attorney General have decided that it could interfere with their coming out or whatever. But it's a real thing, and it is happening, and it's happening all over California. And it's an example of the Leviathan versus natural law. Under natural law, obviously, you look at everything in nature, and parents are responsible for their children, not somebody who went to a liberal learning institution. They have limited responsibilities. They're supposed to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. But unfortunately, our educational system is controlled by powerful unions who donate tons of money to one political party, basically. And that one political party makes sure to give tons of money back to them. And we have one of the worst education systems in the world, especially based upon how much we pay the teachers. They're not teaching classical education. They stopped teaching math, I believe, in Oregon or Washington. And I think they're going to do the same thing in California based on racism. But a lot of educated people think what that's really about is it's a dumbing down process. They want dumb judges. They want dumb lawyers. They're going to get rid of the bar exam, apparently, in California. They just started a pilot bar exam program. I did a video about that. But it's basically like a dumbing down process where they want people to be less and less educated, reactive thinkers, right? Reactive thinking where they just lash out and react based upon emotion instead of being able to use deduction and reason. So very irate, irrational, emotion-based thinking. And that is the new thing. And you can't even go back, like I said, and read something in cursive writing. So like when I was in Scotland, I got to look at all these old castles, and a lot of the walls have cursive writing. I mean, some of it's like too old, or it's Gaelic. But, in some parts, there is English and you're able to read that. And then down in London, a lot of English and cursive writing. And it was really, really nice to be able to read that stuff and understand what it said. And yeah, it might take a little longer sometimes with some of the letters, but you figured it out. Now these kids are never going to be able to read that. So there's like this dumbing down process and this detachment from our history. So let me see here. Yeah, let's OTVO for the win. Yoo-hoo! I'm looking in the sidebar to see if anybody's got any questions. Bork is a dork. So does anybody, what kind of laws? Now, so Good Citizen says, why do you support Chille versus non-Chille? I don't know who does that. I support anybody who supports the Bill of Rights, Constitution, natural law, who supports the right of individuals to possess bearable arms and protect themselves without repercussions, like being falsely arrested and charged when they've exercised self-defense. That's happening a lot in California with these Soros prosecutors. Even if you got it on tape that you acted in self-defense, they'll try to bleed you dry with criminal defense attorney fees and anything they can because they don't want people to exercise these rights. By the way, does anybody know what happened to Daniel Penny, the Marine who placed that psychopath who'd already endangered many people on the subway in the past and hurt people physically? Remember that? Daniel Penny, who was a Marine in, I think, New York, defended this lady, and everybody said that he was a hero, but a Soros prosecutor went ahead and charged him. Anybody know about that case? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And that all ties back into what happened here with this amazing woman. And here's another shot of her because I just think she's so cool. So anyways, her name is Angeli Rose Gomez, and she was placed in jail for about 2 weeks on charges of assaulting a public servant and refusing to comply with commands from law enforcement. And I'm going to put this, just going to read this to you guys. I'm going to blow this up. So I know I've talked enough, giving you enough background on what's going on. All right, so she spent about 2 weeks in jail on a charge of assaulting a public servant after refusing to comply with their commands. In other words, she rescued her kids. She was just a mom. She rescued her kids, all right? So this woman, she rescued her kids, and look what happened to her. Look what happened to her, guys. This woman rescued her kids, and she spent 2 weeks in jail on a charge of assaulting a public servant. I want you to let that sink in. these cops are standing around enforcing the policy, which is to protect the government, protect themselves, basically, and just let those kids get taken out by that psychopath. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this was Texas. Any father probably who was there, if they were able to access a weapon, in my opinion, would have ran into that place immediately. But these cowardly police officers stood around and didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. And it just makes me totally sick. And you're right. We should be contacting the Attorney General. I think that Paxton should be involved in this. There should be some kind of an investigation here, not because the police didn't respond, because they don't have to. What there should be is there should be an investigation because the police didn't let the parents do their natural and God-granted right and duty to protect their children. Is this making sense? Give me a bunch of ones if you know what I'm talking about. That the police failed to let those parents exercise their God-granted unalienable right to protect and care for their young. That is like the single most important thing for a human being, is to have a good mom and dad. It's proven statistically that there's a much lower probability of them going to jail. It's proven statistically that there's a much higher probability of them being successful and having a happy life. I'm not saying that, there's exceptions to every rule, but that is the rule, guys. That is the general rule. That's what we should be talking about right now, is that the police refuse to let these people take care of their kids. There has been a fundamental shift in the thought process of people in this world. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Well, I don't know if David's trying to out me or whatever, but no, it's not. And when in Nevada, you have the ability to just jump in the plane and be pretty much anywhere in about an hour in California, and that I need to go. And then and of course we have other employees, because we have a law firm. And then in Texas, it's no big deal because I can go there for large blocks of time. And the stuff I do in Texas is mainly with the veteran community, motorcycle accidents and stuff like that with vets. So it's pretty good. And I've got staff and people helping me. So it's actually pretty cool, man. I'm pretty happy about it. It gives me a lot more freedom, the ability to open carry and constitutional carry here with permit anyways. And so it's a good thing. So I appreciate that, David. Hope that answers your question. Now, let me see here. I'm studying law myself because I rather what the country is going to for civil rights and lawsuits. I'm learning. Okay, well, keep on learning, big dogs. And let me see here. Police are good for sheeple, bad for the people. Well, here's the thing. Here's my deal is I think that the sheriff, the Shire of the Reef, their duties are more in line with, I think, what we're expecting police to do. I think we can all agree on that. And maybe I should do a show or a hangout about the Shire of the Reef and the sheriffs. Maybe I will do that. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys want me to do a historical video about police and sheriff. I know BZ Watchdog and Let's OTVO want me to do more reaction videos, and I will do that. But I do like to teach the law, and I do like people to understand the underpinnings of American common law and what English common law really is, and just to get a better understanding of what they're dealing with when they walk into a court. I think it's really important that you understand what you're dealing with. And now, so Dr. Donna Walter, who is the one the county can arrest? Who is the one in a county who can arrest a sheriff? You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. I probably would have to be like, that is a really good question. Because who's next up would be state, right? The state, county, city, probably state police, or I don't know, marshal. Hey, somebody help us do some research. Dr. Donna Walter, great question. Dr. Donna Walter has a great question. Let's see here. Well, I think, yeah, I think you can do, well, it depends too on the city or state. So and county. But yeah, you probably have to do a petition to impeach, or where they have a recall election, something like that. County coroner. Give me a bunch of ones for Dr. Donald Walter. I'm liking Dr. Donald Walter more and more. I mean, the whole tar and feather thing is not a bad idea sometimes too, you know. Seems like the district attorney can arrest the sheriff. Well, that makes sense because he is the prosecutorial head here. And thank you, by the way, for that. So David Madwin says, look, David, thank you. David asked the hard-hitting questions, and he's throwing $1.99 at the Uvalde Rescue Fund to say that the district attorney can arrest the sheriff. And that makes sense. And let me tell you why. Because there's a torch of prosecutorial power. It will start with what I call the roadside magistrate, which is the cop. And they have a torch. And then once they charge you or give you a notice to appear, that summons, then that torch of prosecutorial power passes on to the district attorney's office. And then a filing deputy takes that torch and decides whether or not to file the charges. And then if they do, that goes to, you know, it basically becomes a DA's case. So the DA, the district attorney, the head of all the deputy district attorneys. So the DA has his deputies, just like the sheriff has his deputies. So is this making sense? They're county employees, right? And they're also state ones, but the districts are going to be counties as a general rule. And so what's going to happen is those deputies have their boss, who's the head DA. He's like their sheriff, for crying out loud. And so he would have more authority than the sheriff. The sheriff would be basically his administrative agent or deputy for all intents and purposes, although he's elected and he does have law enforcement power. With a court order, he could potentially, it makes sense, be put into a position where he could have arrest powers over the sheriff. Now, the physical thought of an attorney who probably doesn't have any training in doing things like that, I don't know how that would work. He probably would have to deputize his own people to go and do that. But that was a pretty cool question. Yeah, free chili. I'm looking at all your questions in the sidebar, guys. I want to just take a second now. BZ is talking about USC 1752. Yeah, I think so too. Bork for sheriff. By the way, I'm hopefully I'll have an update for you tomorrow about what's going on with Chille. As far as from his own mouth, I know people are probably getting bored hearing, you know, Chille from the dungeon stuff. So I don't want to bore people too much with that stuff. Right now, it's sort of pro forma. There's not a whole lot you can do but wait out the clock, you know. Guys are speaking illegal. I'm speaking lawful. Common law, a petition. Someone asked me. I'm just looking at stuff here. All right, so let's get back on Angeli. Yeah. Do you believe everything a judge and a lawyer says? You know, we know that law enforcement officers are trained to lie. We know that they have a culture of lying, and we know that we're brought up and reared by our parents, if our parents are any good, to not lie and to be honest. And so imagine being a law enforcement officer over time, how that would make you really jaded, right? Because you're going against everything that you've been taught by your parents, your family, and society to try to so-called investigate people and arrest people. And so there's a lot of things that, you know, I think a lot of cases and decisions that were wrongly decided. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking, oh, we're here from the government. We're here to help. We're good. We're perfect. We have wings like angels. And no, that's not the case. A lot of these laws are passed because people have political agendas. A lot of people are placed into political power and probably onto the bench as well, many say, because of political connections and personal motivations, narcissism, you name it. And those are precisely the people that you don't want to have on the bench. You know, those are the kind of people my dad hated so much. I remember he just hated people like that. He just wanted to go out and dig ditches and build houses and be left alone. And it was always the guy from the government that we're here to help that was always there to try to figure out a way to write them some kind of a citation or a ticket or something, you know, or hold up a permit for 3 weeks while the interest is building up on their bank loans, you know, that kind of stuff, guys. That's the real world stuff. Give me a bunch of ones if you know what I'm talking about. If you're a contractor or a blue collar person who just wants to go out and be left alone and maybe crack open an ice cold beer at the end of the day. Those are the kind of people that I want to help. I think those are the real Americans. They just are people who want to be entrepreneurs and have their own lives and not have to work for a company or a corporation. Freedom, right? Freedom, guys. So anyways, this mother spent about 2 weeks in jail. I mean, can you imagine, for assaulting a cop because she rescued her kids? That's basically what happened. So this is also another learning moment that I wanted to talk about with you guys is basically she was accused of doing what Chille did, but she physically like resisted the cops. All right. So she basically was accused of doing what Chille did, but she physically resisted the cops. Ultimately, she was even placed in torture cuffs, but somehow she either escaped them or got released. I'm not totally clear. If somebody from Team MPE can help me do a little bit of research, I would really appreciate it, because I've been stuck in meetings and depositions for hours and hours and hours all day long, and it's just been outrageous for me. So if there's a way that anybody can help me do the research, it really helps me with these shows, because I'm doing everything by myself, and I'm not like Chille, you know, because he is, you know, got a background in I guess film and everything. I mean, he's the one who taught me how to do lighting and all that stuff. So he's really, he knows how to do sound. He knows how to put stuff together. And I'm just doing stuff shooting from the hip. And I try to do everything based on legal research and historical research that I can find. And for this show, I just couldn't find a whole lot, you know. And maybe I'm using the wrong search engine, but if anybody can help me find out more about this woman, I would really, really appreciate it. Because I think she's a hero, and I think we should try to find a way to help her. I think we're called upon in this life to help people who are better than us, especially people who are heroes like this, who all she was doing was protecting her kids who were graduating that day. So when she's out picking onions, I mean, this is like, you know, this is like stuff that movies are made about. You know, this is stuff that people make like Oscar movies. This woman is a hero. This is the real deal. So she got in her car. She's going like 100 miles an hour. She gets there, and the police, she parks in the drop-off area, guys. Do you guys see this, by the way? Do me a favor. Read along with me, everybody. I'll stop for a second. Thanks, David, again for that. I'm going to stop for a minute talking. Oh, my God, little Bo Peep. Little Bo Peep says, what is the crime for an attorney using his bar card to illegally visit an inmate in jail? Well, that's a good question. What do you guys think it is? So now the sentence that I have highlighted right here says she parked in the drop-off area of the school and had her encounter with law enforcement. And what happened was, check this out, guys. This is so freaking cool. This cop says, we're going to tow your car. And she says, I'm like, tow the car, like, do whatever you want with the car. I don't know why you're outside, standing outside the fence talking to me, wasting your time talking to me. You need to be on the other side of the fence and they're doing something. If you're not going to do it, then I'm going to go ahead and do it. So this is her talking to, I guess he was a marshal or a deputy. And that's when she threw her body over the fence door and ran to her eldest son's classroom. And then she talks about how she's banging on the door. And this looks like the condensed version, because they leave out the fact that she had been handcuffed, right? But she's banging on the teacher's door, and finally, like the teacher, and look, guys, this is so crazy. This is something that I want to share with all you guys. Hold on one second. Okay, they teach you in like basic fundamentals of pistol shooting, you know, when they're preparing you to do like a 3-gun or whatever. If you're doing that, you're going to learn like basic fundamentals. And you always have some old timer who's been in combat, and they always tell you movement is your friend. Movement is your friend, right? But the policies and procedures set by these schools are that the teachers say shelter in place. So they're telling the kids shelter in place, right? So what's the first thing you tell your kid if you start hearing alarm bells and they say shelter in place? Well, many say that you tell your kids to run like hell and get as far away from the area where the bells are ringing. And when we know that if you're moving, it's much more it's exponentially more difficult to hit a moving target than a stationary target. And I think that anybody who has ever been in the military or who's taken like CQB classes, they've been taught this. Let's give me, if anybody has ever done that before, let me know if you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So we've got, good thing. Just funny looking at all these people in the sidebar. Go find your sheep, Bo Peep. My son just wrecked his e-bike. Oh my God, Mama Lion, I'm so sorry about that. All right, so I think everybody kind of sees what's going on so far. So this woman goes and she's banging on the teacher's door. And of course, the teacher is sheltering in place. That's the point that I'm trying to make. The teacher is sheltering in place. And she just said, she starts yelling at her son, get out of here. And the kid runs to her mom's car and she goes back for her other son. And so by the time, because she's running apparently to another class, by the time she gets to the other side of the campus, finally there's officers after her saying, ma'am, can you just wait? Can we talk to you? Can you calm down? Come here. Hold on. Are you getting this? So the cops are saying she's running to save her other child. And the cops are saying, ma'am, can you slow down? Can you come here? I mean, really? Are you kidding me? I mean, give me a bunch of ones if you think she's a hero. I mean, all of you guys, even the trolls that came in today, give me a bunch of ones, because this woman is a freaking hero. So do you really, now if Chille was here, he would call these guys jackboot thug, you know what's. And I want to throw a bunch of OTVOs, because these guys, I don't even think they can come close to that definition. These guys are straight cowards. They're trying to chase a woman who looks like she's about 80 pounds, who's trying to rescue her kids. In my opinion, give me a bunch of ones if you agree with me. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that those Uvalde cops were just following protocols and procedure and therefore had no duty to do anything other than arrest parents and pepper spray them. So she says after they're yelling at her, ma'am, wait, ma'am, can we talk to you? And can you calm down, ma'am? Come here. And she said, and I'm like, no, I just got to get my son, start evacuating my son's room, or I'm like going to start like just hitting whoever if you don't get out of my way. I'm just going to start hitting like whoever if you don't go out of my way. This is a little lady. She just rescued one of her sons, and the police are trying to stop her from rescuing her other kid. Why isn't this all over the news, like front page news, her story? Why isn't there a movie made about her? That's what I want to know. Angeli Gomez is her name, age go. And she's a hero. She's an absolute hero. Just blows me away that there are people like this. And it's always like the ladies from like Central America, Latin America, they just really, look out for their kids. You see it out. They're just super awesome. It's just absolutely amazing. Great parents. Just culturally, the culture is freaking amazing. Now, she said that's when the officers finally started evacuating children. So starting with her son's room. And she said that officers wanted the parents to leave their children with the school officials, but the parents, including her, wouldn't listen. So hold on a minute. So basically, by this time, all these parents who have been, getting harassed by these cops, getting detained by law enforcement, finally were not having it. And they just said, screw it, we're getting our kids out of here. Give me a bunch of ones if you would have done exactly what they did. Now, what was her reward? Well, it looks like she ended up going to jail for 2 weeks, and then later getting her kids taken away from her by Child Protective Services. And then apparently she's living in a garage somewhere and we can't find her. And that's what I want to know. That's what I want. I want help from Team MPE to find out this information. KJP, give me a bunch of ones. OTVO, give me a bunch of FCs for free chili. And let's just do some FCs for finding him a good municipal lawyer for this other case, the crime scene tape case. I think that case should be stricken. I think that the DA should rescind any charges, move to dismiss those charges based upon the fact that there's no way there could be, with a proper court, a conviction, because even the officers were in dispute over whether or not Chille had the right to be there, and Chille was directed to that area, and he had the right to be there, and he had the right to film. He wasn't a threat, and they were not engaged in the performance of any duty that presented a safety threat, and they knew that. They absolutely knew it, and he wasn't a threat to them. Now, let me take a look here. I have to go study for the California bar. You probably should, BZ, but the first thing you're going to have to do, if you don't have a college degree, is you want to go ahead and get your AA, or the equivalent of your AA. You could do that using the college level equivalency program. That's what I would recommend that you do. So do you guys want to hear the rest of the story? You heard a little brief audio from her, but do you want me to narrate a little bit more about what happened, about how outrageous this was? And I know that Rick wants to talk about solutions, and so do I, but I think it makes people want solutions more if they get outraged a little bit about something that was so easily solvable. I mean, a 90-pound woman was able to go, after the police finally left her alone, and rescue her 2 boys. Now, if that was your wife, wouldn't you be super proud of her? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Give me a bunch of ones if you would be super proud of her. I certainly would be. Well, Mr. DLRU, Good Luck America, is an ex-cop, and okay. Here's, everybody put out the word. Everybody on Team MPE, put out the word, please, that I would like to try to find a way to help her, not from a legal point of view, but just to try to do a fundraiser for her and her kids, and figure out what's going on between her and Child Protective Services, because maybe we can help raise funds for a good Child Protective Services trained defense lawyer, whatever it is that she's going to need. And I'm smart enough to know when I'm outclassed, if you're going to go against Child Protective Services down in Texas, you're going to need to find someone who specializes in that. But I could probably try to find a way to help them on the case, doing investigations and legal research and things like that. But I definitely, procedurally, I would like to help her find somebody who's really, really good at those particular cases, who has an established relationship with the local court. Now, it says here the Supreme Court judges don't have to graduate high school and anybody can run for the Supreme Court. Well, yeah, that's true. And most of, all of our original Supreme Court justices weren't like law school people. Law schools were a later development. And we had Inns of Court and law study, which is what I did prior to that. And it cranked out some really good lawyers. And it was able to help me to where I was already a well-honed litigator, with having done hundreds of depositions and having done complex litigation and appeals before I was even a barred attorney. So it's super, super good. And don't be impressed by somebody who has an academic piece of paper, guys. Be impressed by their training and who trained them. It's super important. Now, yeah, get in tough with Good Luck America. Okay, I'm looking at more stuff. Yeah, I don't know, KJP. KJP is talking about Supreme Court should not be for life. There's a lot of differing opinions. I know, not specifically on Supreme Court, but like Alan Beck, he's an excellent appellate lawyer and a Second Amendment rights guy. And he likes the concept of unelected federal judges as opposed to elected state judges. He feels that state judges are more political than federal judges. And I don't know. I mean, I'm taking his word for it because he has more federal experience than me. My goal is to try to keep the case away from the judge and try and resolve the case before you have to file it. If you can settle, basically it's called front loading. And so the way I was trained by some very excellent personal injury lawyers is that you do all the hard work up front. So you build your case, you get out there, you get any footage before they erase the camera footage or whatever. You get your investigators out to get witness testimony before they pass away or move. You find a way to track them down so you can stay in touch with them. You front load, you get everything in ready, and you get your client to the point where they understand the process. They understand that it's yes, no in the basement when you answer questions. You don't go off into diatribes. Somebody asks you a question, it's usually going to be yes, no, I don't know. And your other response might be in the basement. Like, where were you? In the basement, right? You don't volunteer. Be more specific. Where were you? You know, where were you in coordination with the front door? Or where were you in relation to the doorknob? That's how you would have to, those are the types of questions you can give an answer to. So as long as your client knows how to do that, you should be really well off. Now, let's see here. Yes, and that's the whole point, Let's OTVO, is I'd rather not fight the charges to begin with. And man, this woman, holy moly, guys. I mean, this is just unbelievable to me. I mean, you guys should all be totally outraged you should be outraged that this isn't a story that hasn't been all over the for-profit media. I mean, this should be everywhere. I mean, you know more about the press by what they don't report. I mean, this is something that is a big deal. So she's saying that she's out running with her son, and then she feels another hand, and then it's her brother-in-law, and then she feels safe. It's just so inspiring to me. And then they headed to the Civic Center with other families where she waited for her niece. And she felt a lot of guilt because she had forgotten her niece, but she saved her sons and didn't save her, you know? But her niece was okay. That's awesome. And then she went to HEB to get candles. And this is this cool little thing that they built for the kids. And there were trucks out in front of the school for a few days with body bags pulling the kids in and out. And then there were vigils. But you can see a real heavy Hispanic area. She's out picking onions, trying to survive. Don't even know if she's got a husband, you know. Make sure you guys can still even hear me. True heroism, Rob. Yeah. Yeah, Steve says that it was all over the media, but not this part. The story was all over the media, but not her story. Sure was not. Her story was back page news. And now we know that the police have been targeting her. And I'm not saying all the police were, but we know that they were. She was thrown in jail for 2 weeks. She had her kids taken away. Anyways, I want to thank Madison Jones, and she's a journalism major. This is her story, and as well as Geraldo Dino Chiecci. It looks like they both are from Texas State University, for writing this cool story. It was really, really cool. It's not totally 1000%, you know, there as far as the timeline goes. But yeah, so people kind of gives you a little bit more depth. Like she could hear shots being fired when she confronted the assembled police. I love the way they say this. So she could hear shots being fired as she confronted the assembled police. And I'll open it up for you with one more. So she confronted the assembled police. And shots were being fired. Gunman was still inside, but she went in there anyways. She confronted the cops for not going inside, and then she was handcuffed for several minutes. See, so that kind of, you know, some of the stories were just not really 100%, but this people's story throws the timeline a little bit better. So she was handcuffed, guys. They put her in torture cuffs, and they had all intentions of throwing her in the dungeon, I'm sure. And they certainly did throw her in the dungeon, didn't they, guys? Exactly, Stacy. That's the problem. You know, when I do research myself, I'm hitting some dead ends. It looks like at one time she did have a lawyer. I did have one of my law clerks try and find this guy's information, and he was not able to do it. So, you know, anybody who wants to help out, it's a story that I think has legs, and I think it would be really cool if we could track her down and try to do something cool for her, because I haven't seen anybody trying to really help her, you know. And it just tells me she's one of these real humble people. She's probably just, you know, devastated about what happened. And, you know, she just doesn't want to be in the limelight. But that doesn't mean that we can't help her, you know. I mean, I'm sure she's suffering. Yeah, that's right, Brick. Men do unjust things by following orders. Look at that. Men do bad things under the guise of lawful orders. Continue highlighting that the little ones might earn a better future in learning history and truth. That's right. That's what I think too. I think that we really need to learn about the real history of this country and classical education. So things like this don't happen again. And I also think that if we are able to have parallel systems, that we should be in a much better and stronger position to help other people. Anyways, I appreciate all you guys coming out. I'll just look on here on this story to see if there's anything else that looks good that we want to talk about. Oh yeah, so it was a U.S. Marshal. So when she's trying to park, this U.S. Marshal is trying to give her a ticket. We're going to have to arrest you because you're being uncooperative. And she's saying, y'all are standing far away and I got to go in there. And then they put her in cuffs, man. And then in their tweet of May 27th, they denied placing her in torture cuffs. Sound familiar, Brick? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that might be Steve, but we don't know. We're trying to find out why she is gone, why she has disappeared. And we're looking at, you know, if there's a way that we can help her because she's a hero. But that's good to know. I appreciate that. says that she's been arrested. Here, I'll put this up here. So the other side, Steve Z says, according to Leader News Archives, Gomez has been arrested at least 10 times since 2014 on charges ranging from aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, family violence, and abandoning or endangering. So, obviously we want to know in what context, because clearly if Child Protective Services arrested her for rescuing her kids, saying that that put them in danger, that would be a totally different scenario. So I always caution people to be very careful about their belief system about people who've been arrested, especially like for nonviolent crimes or charges that have been pled out to that are different than the target charge originally and things like that. We don't know everything about these charges, or even if they're real, or if they were arrests, or if they were convictions. And we don't know in what context the charges arose. So I always want to look at it from the point of view that this lady was a hero, and she was thrown in jail for 2 weeks for rescuing her 2 kids. And that's the context that I'm trying to look at it in. Give me a bunch of ones because she's so cool. And let me see here. Mr. DLRU says beyond pathetic. Yes. Dr. Donna Walter says there are some good charter schools of the classical education model, and I do agree with that. I've heard that before. I just think, the more you get out from under this centralized control system where they're not teaching classical education, it's a problem. It really puts children at a disadvantage. I'm sure these people going to the expensive private schools, their kids are probably getting a nice classical education because they're going to be the next leaders, right? Well, at least they think they're going to be. But I like that. Yay, Chevy, how's it going? Good seeing you. Chevy. Yeah. Let me see here. Here we go. Here's what Good Citizen says. She's a female mother who was thrown in jail and felt intimidated because they took her children away from her and most likely threatened her that if she ever were to speak about the incident to anyone. Well, that's what I think a lot of people were saying, is that the police were targeting her. We know she was arrested for like resisting and obstructing. So that's why like those charges could be for that. I have a hard time believing that she's really that dangerous. Probably a fierce mother based on what I can see and what I've heard. She's exactly the kind of woman that I would want looking after my kids. I mean, give me a bunch of ones, guys, right? Perfect, right? I mean, here, let me. Yeah, gotcha. Copy that. Now, Steve Z says that, I gotcha. Steve Z says that her children were taken before the shooting, but the audio, well, the news reports that we just saw from People and what was the other one? And the Texas Standard said that she, from one of these two, that she went in there and there was gunfire when she went in. So I don't know, Steve, that doesn't sound right, buddy, but if you've got some clips or whatever, I'll check them out. I mean, I want to be accurate and fair in the reporting. But I guess what's interesting is the cops didn't show up until after the shooting, and she showed up during the shooting and went and rescued her kids. And you're saying that didn't happen. So I don't know, man. It sounds like you're going to have a lot of work to do to prove that, because it goes against everything I've seen. But man, I don't know. That's not what I know to be true, man. But based on her testimony, that's not what happened. And based upon witnesses and other parents, that's not what happened. But I don't know if you got some information on it, shoot it over, buddy. But for now, the official accepted version that's reported is that on all the different newspapers, and I don't believe that they're all that accurate either, is that the story that I just told you tonight is the accurate story. But anyways, let me see. So does anybody have any questions about this? And does anybody have any ideas on how we can help this woman or locate her? So that is my goal tonight. And then to reach out to Dick Heller and then have him come down to Uvalde with me. And maybe we could do some kind of a fundraiser or some kind of a drive, to help her out and figure out a way to get her kids back for her. And then, yeah, if anybody has any other information about her that could be helpful, I definitely would like to see that. So let's see here. Oh yeah, I know, Diesel. It's so what Steve Z is saying. What Diesel is saying is even if it's true, she was still willing to save her kids, and that makes them question Child Protective Services. And Steve Z was saying that there's a lot of conflicting stories, and she might have a criminal past, but to me that just kind of muddies the waters. Like Steve Z kind of, I guess, is sort of like the advocate for the other point of view when you see him in the chats a lot. But definitely what she did that day, but I'm not on mute, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Can you hear me? Give me a bunch of ones if you can hear me. Yeah, I will. I'll check them out. Yeah, I just think if you guys can hear me. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, so my thought is that whatever her arrest record is, I think some of it probably has to do with her trying to rescue her kids and sort of upstaging the local cops. You can tell she's got kind of an attitude problem, at least in the eyes of law enforcement, because she's not following commands and letting them take control, and that's what they're trained to do. So that's always going to be a problem. But when you have, a mom, it's just, they're like lions, they're not all moms, but clearly this one is a fierce mom. And whether she went in under gunfire or not, she was there when the school was on lockdown because there was a gunman there. And that is a sign of immense bravery, and it shows great elan. It shows that she's somebody who has that warrior spirit that is just so rare in modern society that I've seen. And I have a lot of respect for this woman for having that type of bravery and the command presence that it took for her to figure out how to get out of those torture cuffs and get in there and rescue her kids. Assuming that's true, of course, because Steve Z would say even terrible parents can demonstrate incredible courage. But yeah, but that's just common sense. Like, everybody knows bad people can do good things, but in this case, I'm not here to argue whether or not she's a bad person. I'm here to say that this is a mom who drove at about 100 miles an hour or so to get to the school and try to rescue her kids, and ultimately was successful. after battling the police. And I think that that's pretty impressive. Give me a bunch of ones, guys, if you think that's impressive that she had balls. Yeah. Just a short glitch. Okay. So anyways, I think we'll wrap it up. You can hear me. Can you hear me now? Yeah, there are videos. Actually, Stacy, hold on. There are videos of this incident from far away that people took with their cell phones. But these cops definitely did their best to intimidate parents and keep them away. They even sprayed some parents, which I think is really bad. Can I do a video on citizens grand jury on how to form one and its powers? Well, I guess I'd have to know about your state and then see what your state would say about that. Well, I'll take a look at it. Can I do a video on citizens grand juries and how to form one? I'll take a look at that for you. Contact the paper article. I already did. I haven't gotten a call back. Good citizen. If anybody can help me find Yeah, so when Chille gets out, that's going to be one of the first things that we do, hopefully, is to get down to Uvalde. But we got to find her. I think that would be a really cool thing, you know, when he first gets released, for us to go down there and help raise some money for her. I mean, regardless of what happened, she shouldn't have been locked up like that. She went and got those kids out of there. So Little Bo Peep is asking if I'm going to take a challenge. I don't know what that is, but I'll take a look at it. Let's see. If she had a criminal past, it should be on clerk of courts. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we could. Yeah, if that's true, we could take a look on the local court website. Some of the smaller towns don't have everything on their websites, though. We can take a look. It's a good idea. Good citizen. I will do so. And file the civil rights lawsuit. Oh, okay. I'll take a look at that. I thought we were going to have a debate or a trial by battle or something. That would have been more fun. Oh, Little Bo Peep's hooking me up, man. Well, I'll tell you what, if you send enough of these, then I can match his 10,000, because, you know, this is how I make my living. Let's see here. Okay. Criminal past also doesn't mean criminal present. That's true. Yeah. So JRBJ says, find Jayoma in Houston TX lawyer. So I'm assuming that's the last name of an attorney. We can take a look. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, so many people have records. I mean, the whole idea is we have a prison industrial complex, and so many laws are written for the purposes of trying to raise revenue. So it's become oppressive in the eyes of many. I do support the idea of deleting a lot of laws. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys support deleting some laws. I don't know. I honestly don't. Yeah, we probably could. I'm trying to get the beard thing going. I'm going to get, hold on a minute. Get a pitchfork. We the people. Hey. Let's OTVO. Hey, Chevy. Good seeing you guys. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the story, and I hope that we can try to find a way to figure out what happened to her. let's go ahead and put Team MPE to work, and let's see if we can track her down. See if there's a way we can find out what happened and help her out. If anybody has access to the local court website, take a look at it. That would be helpful to me. It's one less thing that I would have to do. Just look up her name under the case, like Uvalde Court, Superior Court website probably, and take a look and see if there's anything on there for her. And then if there's any other articles or YouTube or social media stuff that you guys can find, I would really appreciate it. Even if you can find a GoFundMe link for her, we can try. If you can find a GoFundMe link for her, we can at least try to send her some money that way, as long as we can confirm that it's her. So that should be something that we can do. And how long for Georgia to hold a grand jury? I don't know. All right, guys. So anyways, with that being said, anybody who can help me do some research, I would appreciate it. And then I'm looking forward to potentially coming on the DeleteLawz channel tomorrow night. But somebody has to send me a reaction video, and that'll be it. And make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel.